I have the original engine, transmission, and K-member without spindles or anything like that. So just the K-member with lower suspension, anti-sway bar on the steering rack. This engine weighs 847.5 pounds. Taken out, my ankle. Taken out of it. So I'd like to have had it flat. It's not sitting on any of this. But, so there we go. Now we know how much it weighs. Now I'm gonna take it apart and weigh just the K-member and then start weighing the other engine. Got the K-member separated and a direct pull-out 4.62 valve weighs 731 pounds. Complete, it has no oil in it. So directly pulled out of a running driving car. It has everything on it, even the engine mounts, and it doesn't have coil packs or wires, so give or take a couple pounds. So I'd say plus or minus 5 to 5 pounds maybe for all the ignition and everything like that. 731 pounds. But now I have to find somewhere to put it, and it needs to roll. Stock K-member with the strut rods and all that, rack and pinion and anti-sway bar, weighs 115.5 pounds. And it's getting lighter because it's leaking fluid all over my driveway. But all right, now I'm about to cut these lands or whatever those you'd call these engine mounts. I'm gonna cut them off and weld them to an engine cart I have in there and put this engine transmission on that cart, because I've got stuff to build this engine later, and it's actually an engine run stand. So once we build this engine, we can put it back on the stand and then fire it up with a Holley Terminator and everything on it. But okay, back to work. I'm gonna get that done and then come back when I'm mounting that. All right, moment of truth. We actually need to go up and pull the board out. I use this to set the engine on. All right. This has to hold like 770 pounds. All right, that's it. It's down. I pulled the anti-sway bar off, super easy. I was about to pull the rack and pinion, and I completely forgot to show you this suspension. So you remember how I was talking about the A-arm? Well, look how this is. This used to use one arm only, and then this bolt goes through a hole there with rubber bushings and goes up to the front. It is adjustable with rubber bushings. That is super old technology. Like my 66 Mustang uses that. It's garbage. It will work, but it's not performance at all. And that new stuff is an A-arm style and deletes this lower bar by duplicating that style. And you can just see this stamped steel K-member. Just looks heavy and is trash. Well, the Cougar is painted, the K-member is torn apart. The original 2-valve is on a stand on the other side of the Mustang, and I got a lot of the area cleaned up, so I was just like, in my head, I'm thinking, just put the engine in. But I was saying, oh, slow down, Jim, I gotta think. And I now remember I have to put the rest of the car back together, actually. Brake booster, put the main wiring harness back in the car, and all these other really tedious tasks. So a lot of this stuff was dirty, so I'm out of brake clean, so I need to go get some brake clean, clean the grime off of everything, install all of the just stuff you never see that the engine completely hid. Like once you pull the engine, you see it, like you're able to get to the wiring, brake lines, fuel lines, brake booster, all this stuff. So all that has to go in first, and then I'll flip the camera around real quick. I need to paint this. My vacuum cleaner is still broke. It's been like a year and a half now. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I have to vacuum out these ports because some stuff dropped down in the intake. So I gotta vacuum it. But I have to pull that Cobra intake off. I'm gonna paint the Lincoln Mark VIII intake, put it all back together. And one problem we have with running a newer style is this had coil on plug when his car was coil packs, and the other Mark VIIIs ran coil packs, but they had different valve covers. So that's something that I have listed parts for. Like back in the day, I was gonna buy this adapter kit and then never got to it. So that's gonna be something I gotta figure out. But this is me procrastinating because I don't want to. I don't want to go do all this tedious stuff that took me a whole day and a half to remove. So I'm like, but all right, I'm gonna do it. I have to just get it done. Okay, be right back. My dog escaped again. I've said it a couple times now. If you own a German Shepherd, you just might as well not have a fence. They can dig under it, they can jump over it, they can rip boards off. She will do anything in her power just to sit by me, and she's under a car. Anyway, so I installed that, but I think I already have to remove it to put the booster in. But before I put the booster in, I have to hook up that cable because it was stuck, which means I have to install the wiring harness first. But I think I took the brake system out last. So I'm gonna loosely put the wiring harness in place right now, and then we'll just move from there. So I got a good amount of more stuff installed in the engine bay, but it looks like it's about to rain soon, and I've got no one to come help put the hood on. So I threw this moving blanket on, and I'm gonna try to put that hood on behind me alone and not scratch it. And then hopefully I can get it fit before I get poured on. So here I go, wish me luck. I read this article or a story, so it's on the internet, so who knows if it's legitimate at all, but it said that in 1989 when the Mercury Cougar and Thunderbird, the MN12 platform, came out, I forget the guy's name, but he was someone to do with Ford, I don't know. Well, it said that he was mad because he thought that the MN12 was overpriced and too heavy. And they had actual numbers that he had said, saying that they blew past everything. The car is heavy and it's overpriced. And I just lifted this hood up here and it's ridiculous. So Lincoln Mark VIIIs have aluminum hoods, and these Cougars need aluminum hoods. If a company made a aluminum reproduction hood, not fiberglass, fiberglass hoods can be good, but my Lightning over there, it had a Cervini, I think it is, and if it's fiberglass, I just put hood pins in it, and sometimes I don't want that because the hood latch on the fiberglass hood broke, and the hood flew up and smashed my windshield in 2 miles after I bought the truck. And aluminum, if I would pay $800, if that's what the price was. I was just looking up at the hood now. Like if a company made a reproduction hood and it was aluminum for a Cougar and Thunderbird, 89 or 96 to 97 specifically, and it was $800, I'd buy it. And I wouldn't think twice about it. I'd buy 2 of them, 3 of them. I'd put one on a shelf. And, well, I can't afford 3 of them, but I'd buy at least 1. And that would take weight off the front end of the car immensely and retain kind of a stock sleeper look, because I don't like the fiberglass hoods that these have. I think they look kind of ricey, like not muscle car-ish. They just don't fit the 96, 97 style of a V8 Ford. But, oh well. Hang on a bit. So it's the next day and I'm getting ready to put the engine under the car. And before I do that, I decided I'd come here because we need the throttle linkage from this. So I'm going to take the throttle linkage, the cruise control module, and the fuel lines, and we're going to swap that stuff onto the Cougar, and that'll help us have more specific parts for that engine swap. So without further ado, I'm going to pull that stuff off and get it to the shop. So the fuel lines, you can see how they come over here, and they're different down here. I can't remember what I did on mine. I think I used the 2-valve, my 2-valve fuel lines, but used a Gen 1 Mark VIII fuel rail. This is a Gen 2 fuel rail. So I'm gonna leave the fuel rail on here, fuel lines, and we will look at that later in the future once we get kind of things figured out and see what we're doing. So here's the top is the 2-valve, the original one, and this is the Lincoln one. So you can see they're roughly about the same, but then once you come along, that one already stops. When this one keeps going and then has this big apparatus and much longer. So luckily for us, we had a whole donor car, and this looks identical, but the cable's completely different, just like that one. So I'm gonna install these parts right there. Car got rained on. Well, this completely let me down. It's like spraying like foam. So, oh, my phone just got wet. So instead of it going on like regular paint, it is spraying, and it looks like it's just full. It looks like spray foam. It's going on like spray foam. It's full of what looks like dust, but it's spraying it. Like, what it actually looks like is glue. If you ever buy spray-on adhesive and how it's like webby, that's exactly what this paint's doing. So it looks like total trash, total garbage. One spot, it's sprayed real smooth, and it's real smooth and nice and shiny and glossy, the way normal spray paint should be, and the rest of it is trash. And that was a $15 can of paint. This cost $15. So I don't know what's with the paint industry lately, but the past like 10 cans of paint I bought has been nothing but trash. So Now this engine looks like garbage. Yep. See, look at it. It's all just like this one spot right here is nice and smooth. Oh, no, I touched it, so I ruined it. And then everywhere else looks like this. Like flaky. Yep, see down there, it turned out not half bad. It's all right. But then everywhere else just looks like trash. Like, look at that. Just trash. Pure trash. There it is, under the car, ready to go up. But probably won't happen today because I have to pull the hood off and it's already about to rain and it's like 5 or 6 p.m. But it's at least under the car so that the car can fall on it later. Well, we have an engine. Not fully installed, but it's sitting there. There it is. Pew! And you can see the engine bay. You're probably like, wow, Jim, you did a lot of work. Yep, I did. I got most of everything installed. And the only thing I can't find is this tube that went here. There was a metal tube that bolted here. And I don't know where I put it. So hopefully I can get to it. And I don't have this pipe here. The one that could go no longer fits. So I've got like 4 of them that are different. I'm gonna test fit stuff when it's in the car and just see what I can do, because they're supposed to hook up to those 2 tubes right there. Ka-chow. So we're just gonna see, kind of mess around with them. But it is there, at least under the car. I gotta put a jack under the rear, the floor jack under the transmission mount, and then pull the hood off, put the crane back over here. I had it over there for that stuff, and I had sold 3 engines, by the way. I sold the 2-stroke V8s and another 4.6 that we decided we were no longer going to do a B-head build. I have a whole nother, you can't see it, there's a whole nother set of B-heads behind that welder. We were gonna build with this Cobra intake, but we just decided that we need to cut back on some projects, and if we were to build it, we would want another aluminum block. So we just sold it. But anyway, strap down here, lift the engine up in place, and I'm gonna hold it there. And that K-member is light enough, I'm just gonna put the K-member up underneath of it while it's all there. But that is the plan. It'll probably happen over the weekend or so. Man, that strap. Over the weekend, because I got to go to work tomorrow and Friday, and I've got appointments and all kinds of other things. So it's probably going to be the weekend before I even get out here to get this wrapped up. But once I have the engine in it, we have the aluminum drive shaft as well. So this car will get an aluminum drive shaft. We have 2 rear ends. One of them is right there. All aluminum lower control arms, aluminum rear center section. I might have went over this before. I repeat it like 15 times to my wife and annoy her a lot. So you guys are probably gonna hear me say the same stuff a lot because I'm excited about it. But lots more to come. So I'll be back this weekend. All right, I got the K-members are all out. The factory on here with those things you saw me chop off. And I got the new AJE one, just everything kind of laying in place, just mildly mocked up. But I haven't weighed it yet, and I can't find the original engine mounts. The mounts that are on this are actually SN95 mounts because I was putting it in my Thunderbird, my brother's Thunderbird, so with a tubular K member as well, and we decided to hold off on that and swap it back to the Cougar. So now I got to pull those mounts off, but what I'm planning on doing is taking this hood off, hoisting this up in place, hooking the trans mount up, and then using my jack and putting the AJE K member underneath the engine while it's hanging there. So I'm gonna get to it. It's ultra hot out, so I'm just gonna maybe time lapse this, I don't know. But here I go. All right, I've got this hanging completely off the ground. You can see it's not touching anything. It has the lower control arms and the new engine mounts, and obviously the K member. And this weighs 50.5 pounds. So this right here, this other one, is exactly in the same state, except it does not have the engine mount perches or the engine mounts itself. And I'm gonna weigh that one at a different time just because I gotta go find stuff and I really need to get this engine done today. But I now have this data for when I get back to that one. So once again, 50.5 pounds. I don't know how much you guys are even gonna be able to see of work today because it's so hot, the phone will not record and it's gonna shut off in a matter of seconds. But the hood was so heavy, it's outrageously heavy, I keep saying it. Well, it scratched my brand new paint because I'm trying to do it out here and it's 200 degrees, the hood, and it's super heavy. So I just put the first scratches all in the engine bay's paint right here. So it's right where you'll see it too. Right where a part that doesn't get covered up. So I don't know, but now I'm gonna push the crane over and lift the engine. Well, I came into the shop to contemplate life. So I paid $8,000 to get a driveway connected from this shop to the street. 8 grand. And instead of, the county made them have to do something for water runoff, and instead of putting a culvert in to make it so it's flat, the road goes like this and my driveway dips down and then cranks up. So this whole time I can't get a single car in. All this stuff here comes in through my backyard through this back door, and I have to turn everything. It's a useless driveway. Well, I'm trying to work alone. I'm always alone. And that crane, you can see it's at an angle. It rolled down the hill and smashed into my car. Just smashed it, completely crashed into it, and there's nothing I could do to stop it. And that's life. So now my car, I mean, it was a sausage pony, so it's already messed up, but now it's worse. So I scratched some paint, got burnt, and then smashed my car today. I've been out here for like 30 minutes. So now I'm gonna try to move that crane up here alone, and I'm just gonna try to get in position. So I'm gonna go do that. Okay, everyone, due to the heat, my phone will not time lapse. So the recording of installing the engine will not happen unless I pause and keep taking short clips like this. So it's just the phone says it just can't do it. It's just too hot, it shuts off. Like right now I have to keep tapping the screen to keep it active. But I have the engine hooked up down there and chained. I'm gonna bring it up, bolt that rear transmission cross member up, and then with it hanging, I'm gonna come back and then install the K member underneath. So I will be back once the engine is dangling in the air. This is the most dangerous engine swap I've ever done in my life. Out of everything I've ever done, this is absolutely the sketchiest. The floor jacks that are holding the car up, they are exactly where the transmission cross member needs to go. if I would have put them an inch further back or an inch forward, it would have been okay. But I didn't. Somehow I got them spot on, dead nuts. So now I have to use this floor jack with a lot of wood stacked up to lift this side of the car. And if this engine breaks, which is held on by that dilapidated strap, and I know everyone says chains, but 4.6s are not like old engines. There's nowhere to bolt a chain to. You have to use straps. So if that strap breaks and the engine falls, it's going to knock the car off these floor jacks and crush and kill me. The ramps, I had the rears faced one way and the fronts faced the other so the car couldn't move. Well, the fronts obviously aren't here anymore. And the car is too sketchy to flip them now, so it could just roll backwards and crush my Mustang. So if so much sketchiness is going on right now that when in life, when I get a 2-post lift, this will be so much safer, because I'm just sitting here thinking I could die. But if I'm dead, then I will never have to wrench ever again. But yeah, it's complete sketch. So I'm gonna keep doing it and put that block of wood and probably some more on that jack, try to lift one, and yeah, I'll be back, maybe. I got it in. It was a lot of work. It was super sketchy, and I think I'm ready to get a lift at some point in my life. Just when I sell more of this junk in here, well, not junk, not the cars, I mean like a bunch of my other projects, like this tank engine, 754 cubic inch V12, but need to sell that. But anyway, it's in. I'll show you it because it looks totally awesome, just top notch, man. So I'm gonna show you that AJE K member, and then I'm gonna lower the car, which is also gonna be really sketch. So I'll try to record it. I will try to time lapse more, but I've tried like 3 or 4 times now and the phone shuts off right away, like after a couple seconds. But okay, less of me talking, more of me showing you this. Voila. Big ol' engine. So bad angle right now, but there it is. Bolts up here. And look how much room there is, too. So, I mean, it is just great. I took the A-arms off because it just made it too awkward and heavy. I had to lift it, hold this up there by my hand. I had my foot going across to the other side, so I was laying on my back, holding that up underneath the engine with a dilapidated strap, holding it up. So if it would have crushed, I would have just died. But it didn't, and I got it in. Score. So I'm gonna get this baby lowered. You can just see how great it is. And I did, so okay, this is another thing too. I had to use that pry bar, and I had to bend my dipstick tube a lot. I had to bend the dipstick tube and put that mount behind it. So, I don't know. This is a Mustang Cobra exhaust manifold on this side, and this is originally made for a 2-valve. So it would have had a dipstick for a 2-valve cylinder head, which is different. And that is a Lincoln Mark VIII dipstick with a Mustang Cobra exhaust manifold. And that area, it's really hard to show, but this area has a little C channel cut out of it, and the one on the Lincoln was significantly more roomy, way bigger of a notch for the manifold. So when I put that one on, it did push it in a little bit. So maybe if you use long tube headers, it'd probably be just clear, because there wouldn't be as much binding or tightness, whatever you want to call it. But we're there. So I'm gonna get this lower, just less sketch, man. And because every time we get high winds, I don't sleep at night when there's a storm, because I'm just sitting there thinking this car is gonna fall. Okay, well, I'll talk later. I'm gonna get this down. So I just thought now would be a great time to put that steering rack on, which is hidden behind that oil container. Bolts up right there and right there. But I don't know if I want to be underneath this anymore, even though I'm laying on my back under it right now. Okay. I don't know. Bam! Look at that! I might just stay under here. I'm just kidding. But it looks so good. There it is. I wish I would have painted it this low. It would have been a little easier for me to see everything, but I gotta clean some dirt off those valve covers. I should have done it while I was on the ground, but it's okay. Fits pretty tight, but it fits. With the car, I just put the hood on, but I need to just start going down a mental checklist of things to do. The bracket, I did not paint the 3 brackets. 1 bracket, 2 brackets, and then the 3rd bracket. Completely forgot to paint them, so I'll probably just paint them with a can of black and hope that it blends. I need to go buy a vacuum cleaner so I can vacuum down those ports, because my vacuum cleaner just stopped working. And I think I'm gonna get the front suspension so that wheels can go on the car. Just one thing after another. I'm not quite sure where to start yet, because there's a lot of small little things like fuel lines. The 2nd gen Mark VIII, which is what we have here, this intake, I believe is a returnless style fuel system. Only one that comes in, but I believe a Gen 1 Mark VIII was return style, because I used my factory lines and had a return style. So, and the ignition plugs on this is coil on plug, when back in the day I had swapped a Gen 1, which is a direct swap. Like basically everything has all the brackets. And that back thing there, the coolant mod for the head, it's slightly too long. So I'm probably gonna have to take that off, shorten it, and then put it back together. And then there's some dust on these valve covers, which I might swap the valve covers out for Gen 1 ones so I can run coil packs and it work. Or build a wiring harness to convert it. So there's a lot of small stuff that's going to factor in and add up. But yeah, so like right now I don't know where to start. I think I'm just gonna start with exhaust. Or not exhaust, suspension. Get the suspension back and get 4 wheels on it. But the brakes that I have need rebuilt, the aluminum upgrade brakes. So I'd have to also do that. So I got the front suspension just sitting here. Nothing's tight. You can see everything's loose, even that up there. It's all just sitting here. I'm about to put the rack and pinion in. I should have done that before I did this, but I have to clean it yet. But we have this stuff just loosely in place, more parts going back together. So I tried to press it out with a C-clamp. I have all new bushings and everything for this. It didn't work. That's a 3/4 inch socket that I used to press the old pin out, but now it's stuck. And this one here is still factory. And we're gonna have to press this out as well and get both those out of there. I ran out of brake clean, so this is about as good as it'll get. I did clear a lot of the grime off on this, but it always could be better. So I'm just gonna keep working these out and using this Harbor Freight press. Update, this works way better than having to hold it in a press. Just using a ball joint press to push it out. Just gotta cut the rubber on the bottom here so that your press gets pushed up against the aluminum, and you can see there's the metal sleeve pushed out, and then you can pull the rubber right out like this one here. But yep, I'm gonna clean that up, throw the new stuff in, and put it in the car. Well, I got the rack in and just very loosely put the bolts in with a wrench. Then I went and got a socket. Well, I'll show you something. So I just tested this side with multiple bolts, and somewhere in here, about right there, the threads are messed up, and the bolt is starting to look like it's getting stripped. So see the threads? It's very hard. The threads on the end are getting messed up. So at first I was like, did I cross thread it? But nope, the first threads, I've got another bolt here. The first threads are great. It screws in by hand about that deep. It goes about that deep. And then it hits just messed up threads. So I bet they got a weld berry down in there when they were welding it. And now I've got to pull this whole thing out and run a tap down it. So I'll have to do that, but you can at least see what it looks like. It looks great, other than being dirty, but more parts. All right, it's been several days since I've been out here or touched any car parts, so I'm not even sure where I left off. But I did go to my brother's house and went to his shed and got some parts that he had. I'm looking at them right now. So I'm gonna flip the camera around and show you what we're working with. So this is the Gen 2, that's a 96 to 97, or 98, I believe, Lincoln Mark VIII intake manifold. So you can see it's 2 pieces. Well, technically it's like 5 pieces, because you have that piece and then those IRMCs, or however you say it. But we have that to clean and paint. We have this crossover coolant tube to clean and paint, and the radiator hose. But right there, those are 1999 to 2004 Mustang brakes. So V6 Mustangs or GTs, basically everything but Cobras, had these PBR dual piston aluminum calipers. Ugh. And they're much lighter than the other one. I meant much lighter than the Cougar and Thunderbird single piston iron calipers. And this is some information here. So I'm gonna take a quick minute and kind of go into some stuff. Because this build is not only just a cool car build, but I would also like to explain a lot about the MN12 platform and kind of why I love it so much. There's a bug in my face. The Mercury Cougar and Ford Thunderbird MN12 platform shares an incredibly large amount of parts with other cars. One of them being Mustangs, SN95 Mustangs. And the front spindles, the brakes, the brake mount is identical to a Mustang, as well as the hubs, the spindle itself that the bearing slides onto. And the Thunderbird and Cougar and Lincoln Mark VIII do not have Mustang bolt pattern, which is also Crown Victoria bolt pattern, as well as basically all mid-size Fords, like this 66 Mustang even has a 5x4.5, that's 5x4.5 bolt pattern. Even Mopars used it. Well, the Thunderbird and Cougars, which is out there, use 5x4.25. I believe it's like 5x108 millimeters, 108 millimeters, something weird like that. Anyway, it sucks. The rims suck. Wheels, you can't find anything about them, and I think a lot of the wheels look kind of ugly. Well, the Mustang hub is 5x4.5. It's identical. You can pull the Cougar hub off, buy a Mustang hub, bolt it right on, boom, you're swapped. And like I said, the brakes are exactly the same, and the brake rotors swap. So if you didn't want to change your brakes and keep your original tires, your original wheels, you could just swap the calipers directly on, bolt it on. Now you have upgraded brake calipers, stock rotors, but that is only with non-sports. So Mercury Cougars and Thunderbird sport models got larger brake rotors, which were Lincoln Mark VIII brakes. So that's why they got 16-inch wheels. My Cougar back in the day had 15-inch wheels. So those calipers you just saw back there, they will not work with Seth's original brake rotors because he has a sport package which has larger brakes. So I'm running into this thing, like I don't want to hub swap it yet. His wheels are sitting up there. We don't have tires for it. And I wanted to weigh the car with just the wheel, the caliper swaps. So that's kind of a problem. But I'll get back into all this stuff later. I think I'm gonna roll right into cleaning and painting that intake manifold and bolting it on and getting the engine sealed again. So I went off on that tangent, some information which is really good, and when I swap it, I'll bring this all up again. And I'll use actual demonstrations to show you guys. Brake rotors, calipers, all of it. I'll put it all next to each other and use a lot more images and stuff to help explain it all. So, okay, I'm gonna clean and paint that intake with that paint that keeps sputtering and splattering and sucks, and it's probably gonna look like total garbage, but I'm gonna try anything I can do to get it to work because it was $15. I don't know if you can return paint, but I have 4 cans of paint right now that I just bought last week that are junk. They're just, one of them doesn't spray. One can that's gloss black sprays white. It's full of white paint, and it says gloss black on it. And then another can I just used, I was painting, it splattered, ruined everything I was painting. So I have really bad luck with paint cans. Okay, enough of me talking. I'm gonna paint that thing finally. I got some fans going, so that's what the noise is. But here's this paint. It's even Duplicolor, which I like, but it's junk. It just sprays like crap now. I don't know. Maybe it's the Florida, because I was thinking, you know, when I was a kid, I never had a single paint can that was junk. Like every paint can that we bought, you were actually able to just paint. But I'd say 1 in 7 cans of paint that I buy down here in Florida, they don't work. They just don't spray. So I'm wondering if it has something to do with the heat down here, but oh well. Here it is, automotive metallic stainless steel. I'm gonna hit this with it right here on the bench. All right, so it actually turned out pretty good. Most of it sprayed good, except for you can see this back area here. It looks fuzzy, but for the majority, the can worked pretty good. All I had to do was talk crap about it. It actually started to spray decent, but like I said, you can see it looks fuzzy. I don't know, but voila, that looks really good, and I'm proud of it. Probably should wash my hands before I paint stuff, but yep. I was about to clean this baby up and paint it off camera completely, and look, 2 broken bolts. So now I'm gonna have to get that fixed. But yeah, I really did not want to have to do more labor. I was just gonna clean this baby, spray it, bolt it all together, and you guys would be like, oh, wow, we did that. Nope. All right, time to bust out the welder. I got one out. This one I've welded 3 nuts on and used penetrating oil and everything. I can't get it to come out. I think I'll try one last time, but if it doesn't come out this last time, I'm just gonna have to drill it out and tap it for a bigger hole. Which that's the EGR valve anyway, so we're just not gonna run it. But I'd rather it not be crap. Got it painted, and next to it is a Mustang Cobra intake manifold that would also work, that we did buy for the engine, but technically not for this car, this build. It's for another build, so, but it's up here for display purposes next to it. It could make its way on the car eventually, but for right now we're going with a more complete factory appearance. Later we'll get into this build with the Cougar here about what my goal actually is with this car and why we're going with this. And this rendition that we're doing, it's gonna be in stages. So we're gonna get the car to where I envision it, and that'll be like part 1 or whatever, if that makes any sense. Probably doesn't. But I'm gonna clean the engine now and get it ready for the gasket surfaces all clean so I can bolt this intake on and get the engine sealed. All right, so what I have here is the factory IRMC plate. I forget what the actual acronym stands for, but you can see here on the B head series, it's called a B head because this looks like a B, and the other one's called a C head, and it goes to 1 port per cylinder instead of 2. Well, the idea behind this was you can see a butterfly valve in this. So the round port has a valve. I can't think. And normally, so at idle, you're breathing through 1 port, and a computer module is hooked up to this right here on the back of each one for side. And when you hit 3,000 RPMs, whoop, this opens up and gives you full range of both ports. But this engine here, this car, is a 2-valve ECM, engine control management unit or whatever module, and it does not have these. And frankly, even if we were using it, I'd delete this anyway. Back in the day, what I just did was unscrewed these plates and kept this bar in here because I didn't have any other way of doing it. So this bar was still in the holes of mine. Well, now that I'm older, I found out they actually make plates for it. This is called an IRMC delete plate. You can see it's nice billet aluminum, and those ports are gone, and most importantly, the hole that goes through here is not there, so there's no place for it to leak, which is great. My brother and I were able to find these on Facebook Marketplace secondhand. We got these for a screaming deal. So I forget what it was. I think he paid like 80 bucks plus shipping, which is really good. So I'm just going to replace this module here with this. So the intake will be running through both ports. You do lose some low end torque, but we're gonna make up with that later with some gears and whatnot. But I'm gonna put that on. I just cleaned the surface of the gaskets, and I had to go over it. I don't have any Scotch-Brite, so I just went over it with 400 grit sandpaper and like a little blade to scrape, and it looks pretty good. But I gotta find the gaskets and bolts for this, so I'm gonna go dig around. So I got some bad news. The intake you saw was two pieces, an upper and lower. Well, right here is the lower gasket, and it was covered in RTV, and I had to clean it all. Well, it turns out these have been discontinued for several years. Yeah, not good. I don't know. People are saying use RTV, but I mean, look at how thick it is. And it's, I don't know, I mean, it was covered in RTV. I could try to clean this and just, I mean, dip it in RTV. Both of them. And hope that that does it. But I'm gonna have to think on this part and come back to it.